Hello everyone, Dom here from Esports News UK, back with another weekly interview video for you and another special guest. And today it's someone that I haven't interviewed directly before and doesn't do a lot of interviews, so I feel like this is going to be a valuable one. I feel privileged to have this. It's Mark Weller, Chief Gaming Officer from UK org Vexed Gaming. How you doing, Mark?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Thanks for having me as well. It's appreciated.
Anytime, no, thanks for joining me. It's I think Vexed, when I think of top UK orgs. Obviously, I'm not just saying this. There's others out there, XO Esports, Method, and London Spitfire, and so on. I think of Vexed, Eminem Gaming, Vexed. You're
That's
up
good to
there,
hear. Yeah, that's good
and
to hear.
I think you've done a lot over the past few years. And it'd be good to chat about that, and have a chat about Vexed, about you, what you're doing at the moment. So maybe first of all, Mark, you can start a bit about yourself, your background,
Yeah.
how you got into esports and gaming and so on.
Yeah, so obviously I've always loved playing and competing. I've been playing games since I can remember, like I suppose a lot of us have. Um, and I think when I was 16, around about that age, that's when I really started to fall in love with what we now call esports, I suppose. So I think I was 13 years ago or something. I think I was about 15, 16, so about 13 years ago, I was in a
Mm.
car crash.
Oh gosh.
I damaged my lower spine, my neck, some areas of my back, and it put me in a really difficult spot for a long time. I'd always been very active in the daytime because my kind of back then my day to day was go to school, college, go out for a bit, skateboard, chill with your friends, be active, and then come back, come home, and then load up on the computer like RuneScape or Counter Strike Source or whatever. Um, but after the car crash, I was left a bit knackered, for lack of a better term.
Mm.
Um, I was having to see a physio once a week. I was reliant on medication to help deal with, the pain. I couldn't really do much in terms of anything really physical. Like even walking up the stairs would be a big task for me at
Oh.
one point in my life. And this is where gaming really, really gave me something to like compete in and that escapism, if you will.
Mm.
So round about then, I got really into playing Counter Strike Source, but we had next to no money. The PC I had was not up to scratch at all, and it was kind of put together by a bunch of parts that I'd got from my mates or a friend who just upgraded their computer or whatever. So it was like a mishmash of everything. Um, so I had that. It wasn't really playing very well, but I still enjoyed it. Anyway, fast forward a few years, I'm at university. CS:GO's just been released, and at first I wasn't really sure about it because on release it was a bit of a mess, to be honest. But then, obviously, after some perseverance and meeting a few people within the community from the source days that had come over to go, I really got hooked on it. Eventually, we got into playing a few LANs with friends. Heading down to Epic LAN,
Mm.
I series. Trying to make a push towards what the pro scene, if you could call it a pro scene back then. Back then you'd be looking to earn 200-300 quid a month, and you'd still have to treat it like a full time job.
Mm.
Um, so we put up a few good performances. I remember one game in particular. It was a DreamHack qualifier, and I think this was just after the big DreamHack major, which was just unbelievable. I think it was like, well, technically the major 2014, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we found ourselves up against Simple and Electronic on cash. We had some really good momentum going into it, but Simple was just unreal, to be honest. Like that guy can shoot, and I'd never felt so useless in my life in a game.
What you were playing then, Mark?
Yeah,
Oh right, okay,
yeah. So
yeah.
that's how I kind of fell into it, and then I soon found myself like the difficult thing of playing, juggling a job, juggling university, and then I'd also found myself doing all the boring managerial roles for the team,
Mm.
that you just have to do to have any functioning team. I'm sure you know all about the boring managerial side of running a website, for example.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I was managing the team more and more, and I just realized like I can't juggle anything, but I don't really want to let go of it because I love it. So I decided just to take a full step back and and just go from playing and managing to strictly managing a team. So here I am, managing a team. We were making decent runs towards ESEA main, which at the time was considered a high level. But other than that, we weren't doing much more. So I found myself completely taking a step back, focused on finishing my science degree. Education is really important, just like any traditional sport. If you're out there, you're trying to make it as a footballer, there's one in however many chances that you are going to make it there as your full-time career. You need to have that kind of education behind you. I was well aware of that. Coming from nothing, education is the key to get into somewhere where you want to be. So I took my step back, fully focused on finishing my degree, got my science degree, finished all that up, and then I guess I entered the real world where you've got to get a job. And I found myself working at the BBC for a bit. Thought, this is what I want to do. Media. I found myself going on tour as a guitar technician, and I just really wasn't enjoying it. Like, you'd hear all the glitz and glamour, and it was very long hours, very poor pay. My heart just wasn't in it anymore.
So hang on, sorry, you were at BBC and then you left and you became a guitar technician.
Yeah, so I was at BBC for a while. I worked for Sky for a bit. I had interviews at like Dolby, but then I was like, I can't be cramped up in some like office space. At the time, I was like, I want to get out. I want to do stuff. As a young person, usually you are like that. You want to get out and see the world. So I became a guitar technician for a bit. Started doing a few festivals, and then I was like, nah, like this isn't for me. So I turned to a few other jobs. Found digital marketing. Was very, very miserable. Again, cramped in an office. Earning a decent pay, but very, very miserable. And I'd always found myself kind of turning to gaming to then become my escapism once again. Just like when I was in a car crash, for example. So yeah, found myself stuck in a job, hating it, hating life. I found myself picking up card games, like digital card games. As a kid, I loved Pokemon, as a lot of people in kind of my generation did, yeah. And I remember playing this Pokemon game, surprised, weirdly enough, that I got in a Kellogg's cereal box. When you used to get toys in them.
Oh yeah.
There was a CD-ROM in there of the Pokemon card game, but like the first digital attempt at it. And I think I was like year 5, year 6, something along them lines. So I was very young. So I was like, right, I'll pick up a card game. And then that slowly got me hooked. I then found fun in Hearthstone, but it wasn't really for me. And then I was fortunate enough to find a game from the developers of Smite and Paladins called Hand of the Gods.
Right.
And that was really fun. Really fun game. Really enjoyed that. It was like card game meets chess, so your placement was very important, as well as obviously the RNG side of it and building your deck out. So I was lucky enough to go pro in that. I won a national event at EGX, so I was able to secure a spot in the major in Atlanta, America, and then just fell short then. But I was like, right, I missed out on a slot of DreamHack Valencia. I've won a national event. Had a decent run in the major. I thought, stick with this for a bit, see how it goes. But then soon after returning from America, the developers kind of sacked the game off. So that was gutting. No. All the support gone. I'd gone all in as well at this point. Like, this was my job. Developers sacked it off. I was doing all right on Twitch, but wasn't enough to, to pay the bills, etc. So yeah, I'm there. Found myself in a position where effectively jobless very soon. Everything that I put my heart and soul into has just been taken away by the developers. And then it just got me thinking about management again. And, for me, I'd felt like I'd achieved my dream of, everyone wants to play pro, everyone wants to play internationally. And I feel like I'd achieved that. Yeah, sure, I would have liked my career, if you will, to be a bit longer, but it is what it is. So I kind of took a step back again. I did really enjoy managing stuff, managing people. So that's kind of where I fell back into, and everything, like gaming, for example, everything that gaming's given me, from escapism to lifelong friendships to competing internationally, seeing the world. I'm lucky enough and I've worked hard enough to be able to forge a career out of it. And yeah, my career's taken, forks in the road at certain areas. And I definitely wouldn't have imagined being an org owner like where I am currently. But that's what I like about esports as well, is there's just such a huge array of opportunities for everyone. And I hope everyone kind of realizes that, yeah, sure, trying to play pro might be your entry point, but that's not like the end all and be all to the industry. So yeah, here I am now, Chief Gaming Officer here at Vexed, trying to make an organization successful and navigate the minefield that is esports.
Yes, it's super competitive, right? I was going to ask about Vexed, Mark, your time first getting involved and so on, because I guess when you were playing as a player, that wasn't Vexed, right? That was
yeah.
teams.
So Vexed was founded in 2015, originally under the name of eBell. The brand was built on Counter-Strike. They've achieved 2 CSGO majors in the past. Well, we have. And our current focus is on the UK scene and developing British talent, British teams, and bringing them through from grassroots through to pro play, playing on the global stages and representing not only ourselves but the UK scene. So I came into the company mid 2016, maybe. The company was on like the edge of completely going under.
Gosh.
And since then, I've like literally worked my ass off for like close to 5 years to get to where we are today.
Yeah.
As a leading organisation in the UK, and I think the issue that the team had previously was they'd reach a level of success really quickly with achieving 2 CS:GO majors, and then it's like, how do we keep this functioning as an actual team? So that's when I come in and took a look at what areas need developing, what opportunities there are, like, financially, etc. And this is obviously being in the UK and looking up to the likes of Team Dignitas, Reason Gaming, Team Infused when I was younger. Just so not only opportunity for the UK and for organisations to prosper and it be a valid kind of area for us to tackle, but I strongly felt there was a lot of untapped talent in the UK that just hadn't been given that platform. A lot of these organisations, like Fnatic, for example, they've obviously seen their success in other regions, and it had always upset me that these teams would, start here, but then feel like they have to go elsewhere to find their success and for it to be a viable business plan, which I get to a certain degree. So I guess that's why I started looking at the UK. And then, I've been grinding out for 5 years, looked up to them teams, and for now to be in a position where, I'm alongside them or competing alongside them, it's just amazing. And to be in a position where I'm now, alongside these teams that have inspired me, and now I'm alongside them, it's just, it's just an amazing feeling. And look, it's incredibly exhausting, don't get me wrong, physically, but more so mentally. But yeah, it's always been a focus, and like, I guess my driving force to support talent and like help fulfill their potential. And have a shot at achieving their dreams as becoming a pro player, just like, I had a shot at mine. And, like over the years, we've nurtured a large number of players that I'm extremely proud of. Like when we dabbled in the French scene to start off with, like we obviously transferred players to Envious. We have Amanek now, who started with us and he went to Misfits and now he's playing with G2 Esports. But on the UK side, Mezzi with us, who's gone on to C9, who went on to play for Cloud9. Most recently, Lincoln Eccles, who are absolutely smashing it in Valorant with Liquid, and now NIP. You know, we've had players go on to play for numerous tier 1 organizations, and it just makes me really proud to know that we've been able to help players within the UK. And then, in 2019, we agreed on an acquisition with Cooldown Ventures.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, actually, right? You're one of few UK orgs that have got some funding, you know?
Yeah, so there's actually some hearsay around that. So when we were acquired by them, it was mainly focused around like a strategical partnership. And like I said, despite rumors or hearsay, or maybe how some media portrayed it without us being very clear, I suppose, we do not have boatloads of cash to flog everywhere, and we don't actually have any financial backing, like in terms of investment.
Right.
So everything that we earn from sponsorship is what pays for player salaries, lands, travel, etc. So currently we are like 100% self-sufficient, which is extremely difficult in this current space. There was a time where we could pay people well enough and still be able to afford lands and travel, etc. But as the scene's grown, as the scene's developed, as other organizations have received financial backing, big cash injections, etc., we found it increasingly difficult to continue down the path of self-sufficient, running as a normal business, if you will. Where if you look at any real sports teams out there, football, everyone's backed by mass investment just because the money's mad. And I feel like we are getting to that point in esports currently. We are currently preparing for new investment rounds. We do have some big plans in the works. I can't say much more than that for now, but if you are an investor out there listening, get in touch.
Oh, that's interesting. So the Cooldown deal then, when they acquired you guys, I'm guessing there was some monetary transaction there, but then that was it. It was just one thing, and then they owned you guys.
Yeah, it's like, so it's not 100% ownership by them. It's more of a, like I said, partnership.
Right, I see.
Yeah, and then collectively between 3 of us, obviously we own the majority shareholding of it, and we're in it together, so to speak.
Right.
But it wasn't traditional. It wasn't like a traditional pay a load of money, get acquired. You no longer own your studs, sort of thing. Yeah.
I think that might be becoming a trend as well, Mark, in esports, because Endpoint had I guess a similar type deal where they've got their partnership with CEX. Yes, they do have a ownership CEX, but it's like a partnership thing. They get their name in there.
Yeah.
It's this evolution of sponsorship. I think we'll see more of in esports.
Yeah, I think if you look at very recently announced and obviously completely different but similar, like Wolves, for example, Wolves Football Club.
Just the other day.
They've invested in EG, and although I find it quite an interesting investment, considering they have their own esports arm, is becoming more and more prevalent to hear about stuff like that. Yeah.
And some of these valuations, Mark, it'd be interesting to hear your views, because some people are saying, oh, it's great, $255 million valuation, I think it was, Evil Geniuses the other day.
Yeah.
We've seen crazy deals with like TSM, FTX.
Yeah.
I think that was a similar thing. I can't remember the actual figure now, but I put it in a headline whenever I reported on it. Are these realistic, do you think, Mark, some of these valuations? Or
I mean, the more and more time I spend on the business aspect of it, like trying to grow and close investment, the more I realise, obviously, evaluation is evaluation. I mean, I don't want to obviously say that their valuations are not true because I've not seen the stats, etc. But I'm also aware that if you have a valuation and your company numbers, your previous experience, etc., is aligning with that value, and you can prove that value is worth, then I don't see why not. But I have seen some very dodgy numbers out there as well.
Yeah. No, I tend to agree with that, Mark.
But that happens everywhere. Like, it's not just in the esports world. Like, it happens in the fintech space, for example, or any emerging sector, which is very hard to navigate and very hard to even quantify at the moment. But something's there. It's it happens. Yeah, but
And it goes back to that notion, right? When people say, well, what is this entity or player or whatever worth? Well, they're worth whatever someone is willing to pay for them.
well, effectively,
So that's
yeah.
the funny thing about valuations and value, right?
Yeah, effectively, and that's also what's making the esports scene so difficult as well on an organizational level. I feel because these big organizations, this big tier one organization, not going to name anyone, but they're having huge financial injections into them, and they're overpaying for players because they want the best players. And it's all well and good if you got the money, why not? But that all trickles down the funnel and inflates everyone's prices. So it's it's just a really interesting space at the moment. It's very difficult to kind of get your head around it and not control it as such, but be in a position where you're doing it the right way, so to speak. Because right now there is no right way. Everyone's trying to figure it out. Yeah.
I've seen that even at the lower level as well. UK League of Legends, a few teams came in a few years ago with funding, started paying players more. Then other players in the scene want that similar level, and it creates a bit of an inflation or a distorted sense of value and so on.
Definitely.
But I think now people accept that there are a few academy teams in League of Legends like Fnatic and Excel. I think people accept if you're on one of those teams, you're probably going to get paid more than.
Yeah, but you without going on a separate tangent, like players need to realize there's value in them having them teams as their academy rosters, because then they can then feed their franchise teams. Whereas if you're not feeding a different team that effectively is your business model, and you're not bringing X times value back, then it simply doesn't make sense for you to be earning, $2-3 grand a month for what 300-400 viewers a game once every other week, probably. Yeah.
No, I agree, definitely. Mark, I'm going to jump ahead to one of my questions here, because you mentioned earlier, how great it was moving up in the scene, and then being inspired by organisations and now being alongside them. Which is great. And one thing that was announced recently is the UK Esports Team Committee. This group of organisations, yourself included. There's others in there like London Royal Ravens and Fnatic and so on, to sort of boost UK esports, shout about it. Now, some have I've seen you put a tweet out. Some people have criticised it as gatekeeping and so on. And I've personally seen it more as orgs trying to lift UK esports. Maybe some of the wording could have been tweaked, but applications are open to others. I know there were some requirements that you have to be an org for 2 years and so on, and people saying, well, Royal Ravens haven't been around for 2 years and so on. So what's that been like on UK ETC? Tell us a bit about that, and I guess your reaction to the mixed response.
It's very much a mixed bag, but it was expected as well. However, how it went live to the public was not expected. But the UK ETC is something I've been working on for maybe a little over 2 years now. Myself, my colleague Steve from Vexed, Adam from Endpoint, Cal from M&M. I think we met with a mutual friend called Paul as well. We got together during our series anyway for breakfast at the Spoons that's there.
So that was a while ago then, right? Pre-COVID,
yeah. We got together and we started talking about it, and we're mainly talking over the UK scene since we're all together in there anyway, and just started just talking about stuff and general struggles, etc., and then there was this just realization that we're all trying to achieve similar things and shout about the same things, but our voices are always like siloed, or you're on your own, you're isolated, and you're shouting about one thing. And even though the public sees Vexed and Endpoint, for example, from my Counter-Strike rival. We're shouting about one thing, they're shouting about the same thing, but everything's worded a bit differently. We all just thought, like, why don't we just come together and instead of trying to solve it as individuals, try and be there as a collective voice to really start to make powerful, impactful change rather than us all just trying to shout about it, go down our own little routes to try and achieve stuff. Because obviously there's a lot of stuff, organisations like ourselves included, that have achieved within the UK that has helped the UK scene. No one really sees that from the outside kind of perspective, but everything an org does and pushes for not only helps them, but it helps others and the entire scene. We just thought, let's just come together and try and push change within the UK as a collective. And then obviously we reached out to a few people, Fnatic, XL, London Royal Ravens, London Spitfire included, and spoke to the BEA about it. And then the ball kind of really got rolling, probably 6 or 7 months ago, maybe. So it's a bit of a slow burner until then. But then it started to pick up traction. And I won't lie, when the announcement got leaked and I saw all the very untrue, I guess they weren't accusations as such, but everyone, I felt like the leak, the way it was reported really kind of threw a spanner in the works as such, because we weren't in a position to show everyone the full story. It was literally just, here are a few things, and obviously media being media, here's what's going to get headlines, or here's what's going to get clicks, etc. So yeah, it really upset me, to be honest. And obviously I think a lot of journalists don't think about this side, because if they thought about it too much, and effectively, you yourself included, you might be out of a job if you're too sensitive over stuff. But just as Vexed is, it's another passion project for me. I'd put 2 and a bit years in, and I was just so happy to see it go live, and then to see the scene just be miseducated, I suppose, and react the way they did, call it gatekeeping, etc. It was really upsetting, to be honest. But we are making some good moves now behind the scenes. I'm glad we've gone public. I'm glad we've heard what everyone's had to say, because now we can at least address those problems, or at least address how people are seeing it. We're definitely not a closed, gated boys club, if you will. We're very much a collective that you can apply for if you feel like, as an organisation in the UK, you are making positive change in the UK. And yeah, to be working alongside such legends such as Khan and Odie, who I mentioned from the Dignitas days, currently from obviously Khan's at Fnatic, Odie's at Ravens, as well as people who've come through the scene together with me, like Kieran from XL, Cal Daniel from M&M, Pete Adam from Endpoint. It's just brilliant, and it's almost like a story sort of thing that we've all just come together. We've all come up through it together, and now we're in a position where we can make real change, and we are doing that. And yeah.
I will say I personally felt bad as well about the announcement, because disclaimer to people watching this, I do a little bit of freelance for the British Esports Association. I help with their weekly newsletter, and I occasionally help with press releases as well, and they did say to me, Dom, can you take a look at this and help us, blah blah blah. And I think their plan was to put the release out under embargo, right? And that's where it somehow got forwarded on, and look, there's a website here. And then it got leaked to Digzerto, and it was a shame. That does happen sometimes, but it must have been frustrating for you, like you say, Mark, because you've seen it be reported in a way that it wasn't in the press release, and then people were reacting to it quite negatively. But then when it did get announced fully, I saw more positive responses after that. Definitely.
Obviously, I think not everyone got over it as such, from what was reported, but I think obviously the full news was out there, the full information was out there. We were very, very clear. People can apply should they feel like we're doing, like I said, positive things or making positive change within the UK scene. So yeah, I'm really excited to see some applications. I know we've had a number already.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to speak with other people, like other like-minded individuals, and hear what we're all struggling with currently, because organizations at different levels, like Fnatic, for example, might not struggle with some of the things we struggle with at Vexed, but other organizations further down the chain likewise might be struggling at stuff that we've already cracked at Vexed, or someone else has already kind of that doesn't even affect them because of the level they're playing at. So it'll be really good to get a full picture of the UK scene and how it can be improved, I think. Yeah,
I think it's good. Like I say, personally, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys do or what you talk about and so on. I think there's some great names in there, big orgs. For me, it's been exciting. So good luck, and I hope to see some positive movements and so on. Talking of which, you guys are in a lot of games, right? Or you've had a lot of achievements, different games you experiment in. It's the full list. I'm a bad journalist. I don't even know the full list of games you're in now because you've experimented in other things, right? Wild Rift.
Yeah.
You had a team and so on. Tell us a bit about your current games or major achievements. You've done well in Hearthstone with Paradox, a UK player. You've dabbled in Quake, because you've really had a broad sort of range of games and activities.
Yeah, so I think we do really well, to be honest, especially for the small budget that we have. And obviously throughout being in different games, we offer a lot to sponsors and different kind of sponsorships. So yeah, we're two-time national champions and reigning champions within Hearthstone after winning ESL UK Premiership, Red Bull MEO in London. And Oliver Paradox, he's recently successfully qualified for his 8th Hearthstone Masters Tour. He's pre-COVID, he was competing everywhere. We were in Vegas, we were in Korea. He's really is champion, British esports. He's a fantastic professional. Can't say, enough nice things about the guy.
I'll never forget him when he dabbed on stage next to Frankie Ward when he won. I think it was the ESL.
when he did that, I was like, "That's a clip. That is a clip."
It was, yeah. I think I shared it as a video on Esports News UK because I found it quite funny, and Frankie's reaction as well. She was surprised.
Yeah,
I thought it was a bit silly, but it's fun.
He dinted the trophy lid as well.
That was it.
Obviously, it fell off. He dropped it, and I've got a big chip in it. It doesn't sit right, but anyway, it's part of the history.
So like like I was saying, you're in a lot of games, Mark. You've been in Wild Rift. You haven't dabbled in League of Legends, from what I know, right?
No.
What's the reason in there? Because obviously I have a bit of a bias because I like League of Legends, and Esports News UK started our life as covering UK League of Legends. What is your thinking there? Because it is a little bit of a what's the word here? It's its own scene, and it's got so many layers now in the UK. So many different tiers. It's a bit of a beast these days.
Yeah, I mean, League of Legends has always been on our interest list. Again, it kind of comes down to budget, but then it also comes down to, it's very difficult to justify the spend on a localized level. And we're all about obviously trying to lift up UK scene, lift up UK talent, but also at the end of the day, because we don't have this financial investment, everything that we do, it has to make sense, unfortunately, on a business level. And sometimes that means we can't support things we'd like to support. And then obviously the bigger picture outside of a localized level, I love what they do, on the bigger LEC side of things and the world and how it's all structured. Absolutely love it. I'm just really not a fan of franchising whatsoever. I come from nothing. I've made my own journey through nothing but hard work, and I strongly believe that any system in sports or esports should be, you should be allowed to work your way up that ladder rather than preying on landing a spotted franchise team. I'd love to be part of the NLC. Really, I think if we were to enter League of Legends, that would be our goal. Obviously, make an appearance at the EU Masters. That'd be fantastic as well. But But yeah, I don't think League of Legends is on the cards anytime soon. But it is something we've always had interest in, and something where we are keen to look into and continue to explore. Which is why we entered Wild Rift, to be honest. Yeah, so like with Wild Rift, obviously it was a really interesting one for us because we've had these initial conversations internally for a while, both about MOBAs and mobile gaming. Like I mentioned, we've had that conversation about League of Legends, and then there was a time where we almost entered Dota. Because personally, I'm a Dota fan at heart. You know, it's either one or the other usually in it. And at heart, I am a Dota fan. But after some digging around in the UK scene and the national localized scene, honestly, in Dota, it felt like no one competing really cared about the national scene. Everyone just wants to play at the top, and they're not bothered in grinding to get there. We just want to be there. So everyone was mixing with everyone. They'll play an event together, continue to mix until someone gets picked up by a big brand.
Yeah.
So we decided to like channel our focus elsewhere. And then when Wild Rift was announced, we just instantly knew that yes, we're going to get involved. We don't know how yet. Obviously, there's no information on the tournament side of things, but we just knew we wanted to be a part of it. It ticked 2 boxes for us, you know. It's based around a really successful IP, League of Legends, and it allows us to expand into the mobile gaming division, which we've been really interested in for some time. We always knew like it was going to be a difficult one for us to branch into. Like, we are an FPS brand at heart. Look at everything but Hearthstone that we've done, you know, Halo, now Valorant, Rainbow Six, Counter-Strike, other localized games like Zula. Like, it's all been very heavily FPS focused. So we always knew it was going to be difficult to kind of get that traction when we were shifting to different genres. But yeah, it's something we're very happy with at the moment with Wild Rift. We're happy with how it went. Not overly happy to the point where like we're amazed, but it went as we expected. We're happy with our position, like 3rd place in the Premiership. It's kind of, when we were scouting teams, it's kind of where we pinned us to finish. And now currently we're just discussing like internally where we want to take it and what direction we want to take with Wild Rift. As obviously they announced the Origin series, and then I think there was a report recently about the monetization of Wild Rift doing very well, which obviously I now suspect because of that they're going to put more focus on that mobile title.
Yeah, and it's interesting talking about this with you, Mark, and hearing from you, because for me, League of Legends has so many of these European regional leagues, these lower tiers, and like you say, you can't qualify from EU Masters or NLC, the European level, to LEC. And when that was announced a few years ago, I did an opinion piece. I was a little bit upset about that, you know, we're not going to see a Team Dignitas type team or Misfits qualified from the UK, the old ESL UK Prem, and then got through Challenger Series up to EU LCS, which is now LEC. I guess they would have had to reapply to get to the LEC, but the fact that they were in the EU LCS would have made it easier for them to apply for LEC than other teams anyway. But yeah, I'm in two minds with it, because I like what franchising has done in some aspects in esports, and then in other ways I don't like it. I miss promotion relegation. I like having that, you know, and we've had Schalke left, right, the LEC recently, because they had financial problems with their football side, and then Team BDS have bought in for whatever it is, $26.5 million or around that figure. It's pretty crazy, you know, for a new UK org setting up that's been around a few years. No chance of them getting in there unless they get the big funding like XL Esports did. So it's interesting to hear from you, and I guess with you going into Wild Rift as well, Wild Rift doesn't have all those layers, all those European regional leagues. It has. It's if you're a good team, it's easier to get to the top level of Wild Rift than it is League of Legends, right? And some of the esports prize pools they have is pretty impressive. And I think Origin series was 300,000.
Yeah, for a brand new title, that's a very solid prize pool.
So it's interesting talking through that with you, Mark. And you mentioned Valorant. Of course, Valorant seems to be the game of the
Yeah.
moment, or the new game of the moment. I know it's been around for a
really
year
doing
now.
well, yeah.
And you guys, you had a run in the VCT closed qualifier recently, right? Didn't quite make it. I didn't
Yeah.
follow it super closely, but tell us a bit about your sort of endeavours in Valorant so far, and maybe your ambitions.
Yeah, so we had a really successful, like, 3-day run, I suppose, in the VCT qualifiers. We started in the Open, and then obviously worked our way through flawlessly, taking down a number of great teams in a really dominant fashion along the way as well. It was a very impressive early day run. We managed to make it through to the closed qualifiers, like you said, and then unfortunately we just fell. We fell to Alliance in the upper bracket, and then obviously that dropped us to the lower bracket, where we then met Vexed alumni Eccles in NIP, in the NIP squad. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I missed that. Because I don't follow Valorant super closely, but I try and follow those UK angles. But that must have been difficult.
Yeah, so we faced them, and obviously as a squad they are well seasoned. Eccles has just joined them recently, but then he's also got that experience from previously playing with Team Liquid. But yeah, so we just fell short to them. But honestly, as a roster, like, I really believe in this roster. They're a team that has some fantastic leadership, some great mindset, and they're quite young as well, so they've got that hunger to really make it. But then there's no ego either. So like, we've managed to have some really strong key players in the team, but everyone understands they're all, say, to quote Scream from back in the day, they're all one finger on the same hand. As long as they're all clicking where they need to be clicking, or moving where they need to be moving, and playing as a unit, that's how the wins come. But yeah, I mean, I don't feel we fell short because of skill at all. I mean, we hit a few aces on NIP. We come back after being down something like, I might be wrong with this, but like 5-1 or 7-1 or something, and brought it back to a close game. And then after reviewing the games, like I said, I don't feel it was down to skill. It was definitely like a confidence issue, which is something we see time and time again at Vex, because we pick people up from the grassroots, and we see the talent that they have, and then we nurture it and then develop it and bring them through to a place where they're then comfortable and they can perform on the high stages. So yeah, I think at this level, the pressure just kind of got to them in this kind of scenario, because it's the deepest run they've ever had. They now got a representation of an organization on the backs as well, which obviously we don't put that pressure on them, but it is something there that's always in the back of players' minds, especially when they first get picked up and they are representing the first professional team. But yeah, it's just we're at that spot now where we need to do our job as an organization. It's definitely not just on the players. We need to ensure the players get the experiences they need to build up that confidence and feel confident enough in themselves to play their own game, rather than letting the pressure get to them when they're facing a T1 organization, which is quite daunting. Like, just the players, you might never have heard of them, but if they've got a badge on that, Fnatic, for example, a household name in esports, then obviously you are going to have that mental shift. Like, you won't peek a corner as confidently as you would versus some, no-namers that you've never heard of before. So,
and Valorant has been a little bit, I don't want to say volatile, but it's still in its early days. So you're seeing a lot of those big name orgs change their rosters reasonably often, and upsets are happening. XL, the funding and so on they've got, they should be qualifying really for these bigger tournaments and haven't done so yet. And then, Fnatic, having surprise losses every now and then, and it looks like they might not make it to the next and so on. So it's still finding its feet, Valorant. We're still figuring out who those big best players are. I think that's going to take a few years, honestly.
And the meta's still being adjusted. A lot of talent from Counter-Strike has gone to Valorant, and at the early days they were kind of forging the meta to be similar like Counter-Strike, but now you're seeing the game is, although it very much has its similarities, it is played differently, and the metas do swing heavily. So yeah, it's really interesting to watch at the moment. And I think that's partially why we didn't enter straight away. We did an interview with a Valorant website, a little with our talent manager, just a little small text piece. And one of the questions are why didn't you enter straight away? Why have you chose now to enter? And it is, like I said, we don't have a lot of money to spend, and we can't afford to lose money like that sort of thing. So we were very much watching the scene, see how it develops, see what kind of support's coming in from Riot, see what third-party support's going to come in from other tournament organizers, and it's a very interesting space right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Enjoying it.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying we're very much enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. I know you've got a dash in a minute, Mark, so I'll try and finish this up quickly. On League of Legends, I missed this earlier. I only saw this morning or yesterday morning. Apparently, there's a champion coming out soon called Vex.
Yeah.
Is that a sign that you're?
No, it's definitely not at this point. No.
I was surprised when I saw that. It's like it could be ideal. Last few bits here. Now, are you a fan of sim racing? Is that right, Mark? I've seen you've got a nice rig and stuff. Is that something Vexed could go into with your knowledge or passion in that space?
It's a really interesting space right now. Like, we've seen it boom dramatically during early COVID lockdown. The lack of real life events, and you've seen these F1 races being, I think they were held at the Gfinity Studios and then broadcast on traditional TV, if you will. And then there's been some really strong investments inside of it from the likes of F1 themselves, who are using it as a big marketing push to reach a different audience right now.
A lot of the teams as well, right? Ferrari, Williams, they're all doing
I'm pretty
stuff.
sure it's part of contract now that they must at least be a part of the F1 series. But obviously, if you're going to pick up a sim racer, you want to get the most out of it rather than just playing one series. So there's it's a really interesting space right now, and we've dabbled in it. We've had a driver, Richard Yaxley. He won the McLaren Velo Grand Prix. I think this was first lockdown, I want to say, in the UK, when everyone was looking at alternative content. He beat actual F1 driver Carlos Sainz in that when he was at McLaren.
Yeah.
We've also done some activations with our sponsors at Logitech G, publishers Bandai Namco on Project Cars 3, where we put a real life driver up against our sim driver and see if the real life driver could beat our sim driver on this exact same track. And that's that was a great laugh. That's done 1.3 million views now, I think. And wow. I don't know. I'd love to get involved in it, but right now I feel it's mainly dominated by the actual traditional F1 team brands. And obviously, with that being said, that's a lot of investment. And
would you consider partnering with one? Because we've seen that happen a few times.
Yeah, I'd definitely consider that. Obviously, the deal would have to be right, and it would all have to make sense. And the partner would have to kind of, understand what it is to do what we feel would be the right way of doing it, which is something we always try and do at Vex, do it the right way and not just a botch job, if you will. But I'd love to get involved, and who knows what the future holds.
Okay, cool. You mentioned some sponsors there, Mark. I know you've got a dash in a minute. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I did have a couple more questions, but any shout outs or anything?
Any couple more questions? I'm good to go.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, let's go for it then. So I was going to ask about you've dabbled in your Valorant stuff. We were talking about Valorant, but you've done other cool things as well in the past. You've done interesting initiatives with different companies. You did a Valorant Logitech Invitational last year, right, with Connor Ball of the Vamps, the band. That must be cool. You've done a few initiatives there. Did you do something with a football team as well?
Yeah, Leeds United.
Leeds, it was Leeds. I was thinking Leeds, and I didn't want to say the wrong team. You've done a few cool things like that.
Yeah, so we like to keep it exciting, and obviously it helps us as a brand, but obviously we're all about, we need to grow the scene and develop the scene, and how can we do that in a way that's entertaining? Obviously it helps us as a brand, but more importantly, gives esports that further reach, and reach reach a wider audience that we might not necessarily reach or have ever heard or understand esports. So yeah, I headed up a team in Logitech G Invitational for Valorant. We had Connor Ball from the band The Vamps involved, and he was absolutely loving it. I think that was his first ever time like in a competitive setting. He was absolutely loving it. Obviously, he live streamed it on his Twitch, so he's quite active over there. And then that gave us the reach to an audience which we wouldn't necessarily always reach as a brand, but then, you know, as a young pop boy band, I suppose, like band, he has an audience which necessarily aren't always exposed to gaming, and to be able to expose gaming and, you know, the competitive aspect of it to an audience like that, I think really does wonders for the space, because it is all inclusive and anyone can play, and at times it just feel a bit gatekept by certain individuals, but yeah, it's to reach an audience as wide as it is was fantastic. And then as I mentioned before, we did the sim racing thing with Logitech, again reaching an audience we wouldn't normally reach, mainly a motorsports audience, or traditional motorsports audience. But that went down extremely well. We outperformed some huge brands with that that they've activated with before, you know, like Jaguar and Hot Wheels.
Wow.
So yeah, we were really happy with that. And then we saw, you know, a following come off the back of that for ourselves as well, from a traditional sports pace, which is always great to see. And then, like you mentioned before, we've done that content with Leeds United, predominantly a football audience. Obviously, some young people follow it that might play FIFA or enjoy playing video games, but I really felt the content that we produced for that really did like help bridge the gap again between traditional sports and the world of esports. And I think more content that overlaps, you know, pop culture, traditional sports with esports and digital culture, if you will, I think the better. Like we're really wanting to connect and support the community more. You know, shortly we've got some cool bits that we're working on that we'll shortly be able to talk more about. So I'd certainly recommend people keeping an eye on our Twitter in the coming weeks. But we're definitely working on trying to bridge that gap more and more for sure.
Well, Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on with, you know, funding rounds, and good luck to you there. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. No, I think you've covered everything. If that's all you want to know, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a great chat, Mark. It's I wasn't quite aware of your story and how it set out, so I think that was.
Yeah, I don't think many people are. Yeah, I don't speak to many people. I just like to crack on with stuff. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, 100%. Good luck in Valorant and everything, and yeah, keep us posted, Mark. And everyone watching this, thanks very much. Please do give Vexed a follow if you're not already, and UKETC and so on. And I'll hopefully be back again with another interview next week. So thank you for watching, and yeah, I'll see you next time. And thanks for joining me, Mark.
Cheers, thank you.